Am I crooked? I don't know. I don't know if I'm crooked. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. How is everybody doing? Doing? I'm so corny. I might have to change that intro, guys. But hello, welcome. My name is Karen, and today I am here late, but I'm here with my December wrap up. Now, December was a good reading month for me. I mean, in my opinion, I read some really good books. So I listened to some good books and I really enjoyed them. I actually listened to two books and I read one physical book for the month of December. As everybody knows, December and Thanksgiving, all that stuff is a little crazy. You have the holidays and everybody's running around. But yeah, I finished three books in the month of December and we're here to talk about them today. The first book that I finished or listened to, and I will get the physical book because the book was so good. There's so many quotes and there's so many things that I just want to annotate or just highlight in that book in general, and some research stuff that I would love to do. And the first book is Caste. Amazing. It's talking about the caste system that was established in the United States of America after slavery ended. That's it in a nutshell. That's what it is talking about. It's talking about how that caste system came to fruition, how it was shaped, and how it was embedded in our minds. And kind of from a very young age, we know our places in this world, right? So there's the one spot, I don't know exactly where in this book, I wish I would have wrote it down, but they talk about how, and I wrote some notes here, how no one was white before coming to America. How basically race is just made up. There's no such thing as race. It was a way to kind of separate people, you know? And yeah, they give so many examples of injustices that Black Americans faced for generations, just generations, how much they have fought for equal rights. And they just really go in depth in this book. One guy, actually, I think when he was younger, he saw his mother. She had to basically answer to younger white kids and, be subservient to them. And they could just call her name. They didn't have to call her Miss, And when he grew up, he decided to name his daughter Miss so that everybody can call her Miss. And I thought that was pretty profound. I have a lot of thoughts on that, and I wrote that down here. Oh my gosh. There was another part in chapter 5 where this woman is it's the same woman, Miss. They asked her later if she has issues with, having relationships with that name, and she says no, she doesn't have issues with the opposite race because as long as she stays in the container that they've placed her in and she doesn't come out of that container, she is accepted. And I thought that was interesting as well. And then there was another quote here in chapter 9. It says, not to speak is to speak, not to act is to act. What was that little meme? No response is a response. Same thing. Anyways, that book was really good. And if you just want to know a little bit about United States history, as brutal as it may be, just for educational purposes, just to be informed and be better as an individual and to understand the struggles of somebody else, it is a good book. And I suggest that everyone pick it up and read it. So book numero dos. Number 2 is The Journey of Crazy Horse. That's, my friends, is a good book. If you ever want to really, I don't know, I want to say understand, but you can try to understand how maybe Native Americans felt in that transition period of the Americas being colonized. This is a good perspective. By the time Crazy Horse was born, and one thing I will say about this book, and we're following his journey from a boy until his death, essentially. But one thing I will say about this book is I love their names. Like Crazy Horse was first named Light Hair because he had very light hair, and he earned the name Crazy Horse later on in life. And they kind of explain that how through different things that he did, how he earned that title, because his dad was actually Crazy Horse before him, so he earned his father's name. They definitely talk about Native American ways and the way that they cherish the earth, and they just their way of life was just so much different before Europeans came, right? And at first they talk about how Crazy Horse was intrigued, and he was curious about, I'm just going to reference it as they reference it about the white man, right? So he was curious, and like most of the natives, they wanted to see what they were doing. They thought at first that they were just passing through. They thought they were looking for something. Again, there's language barriers. And as they saw that these people were actually not just passing through, and they weren't just there to trade goods and services, that they were actually there to stay, you see through this book how that affected them so greatly. It affected their way of life, that you see how they were kind of pushed out and made to live in areas where there wasn't ways to produce food. Their natural way, they became dependent. Oh my gosh, there's so many different points in this book that I can kind of talk about, but they talk about how the Lakota became dependent on European goods, like pottery and knives and horses and just different things that were useful. There was even a point where, the Lakota, how they live is that, I believe it's hunter-gatherers. Don't quote me on that. But they kind of move with the seasons. They don't stay grounded in one space. They continuously are moving around with the seasons. They will move around with the seasons and with the animals based on the weather. And when Europeans started colonizing the Americas, obviously they were taking pieces of lands that they could no longer hunt in and do the things that they would normally do. Now, granted, natives fought with each other, with various other groups, but not to the extent that they fought with the Europeans. Obviously, they had a disadvantage, and you see that in this book. It is a good book. I don't know. It really touched me, like, just to see his perspective. They talk about, oh my gosh, so his mentor's name, and that I think I went off on a tangent, but like their names are so crazy, like not crazy, so cool. That's what I meant to say. But like his mentor's name was High Backbone. His mom's name was, what is it? Weird. So his dad's name was Crazy Horse, and his mom's name was Rattling Blanket Woman. I just think they're such cool names. And then his mentor's name, did I say, was High Backbone? These are just like, I don't know. It was just interesting to me. There was a part here where I wrote down that I thought was interesting. He was like, peace treaty seemed odd when there was no war. Which again stuck out to me, like they're trying to create these peace treaties, but again, there is no war. And I think that's because Europeans knew they were encroaching on their land and that there would be war once they realized that they were staying and they were not leaving. So they tried to create these peace treaties. And a lot of the times you even see where they put their faith in, I think it was it, I don't want to say the wrong person, Sitting Bull. I'm not sure. Don't quote me. But no, it wasn't him. It was someone else. But they basically let that person speak for them, for all of the native population, with the Europeans to make agreements. And obviously they're not going to understand some of the agreements that they're signing off on. They didn't realize that their name, a dot on a piece of paper would signify that you own this piece of land. They didn't even know that land was something that could be owned. The perspective is just insane. And a good perspective. Listen, I don't think anybody should own land either. One of the biggest things said to me is like, I wasn't asked to be born. None of us were asked to be born. None of us were asked to be born, and we should be afforded the basic necessities of life. That is my humble opinion. Call that what it is. Put me in whatever category you want to put me, but that's how it feels. Okay? Anyways, The Journey of Crazy Horse was a really good book. It is following, and I feel like I'm talking with my hands a lot, but it's following Crazy Horse's journey, and how he basically copes with, or how he copes with Europeans colonizing America. And his battle there, he would raid towns, he fought them constantly. Oh my gosh, there was this one part where it was just insane. Like, he didn't understand why after you murder somebody, why you would mutilate their bodies. And even me, as I'm listening to this book, I'm like, it doesn't make any sense. You know, what's the point of mutilation after you've killed somebody? But this is stuff that he found was done to his native people, and it enraged him, rightfully so. Good book. If you're into the deep, get that book. All right. And the last book that I'm going to talk about is Black Sun. This book was so good. Now, if you remember, if you've been here, it was on my November TBR, and I didn't finish it till December 31st. It is a slow burn. What I mean by that is it's going to take you a little bit to get into it, but once you're into it, and you want to know what happens, and you just get sucked in by the characters. Now, this book is based in pre-Columbian times, where you're seeing different tribes in, I guess I would say, the Americas, and you're basically seeing three different people's perspectives, right? We have, and forgive me if I'm saying their names wrong, but this is how I said it in my head while I was reading it. Serapio, which is basically the god that's supposed to come back during this rare solar eclipse and solstice that happens at the same time. And it's a very, very rare event where basically the whole book is about getting Serapio to the city of Tova in order to change the trajectory of the religion that they're following, right? Something along those lines. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly at all, but basically Serapio's there to be their savior. He's there to come and bring back the old ways that they knew. And then you have another perspective of Azala. I think that's how you say her name. I'll put it right here, so maybe you guys can sound that out for me. But she is a sea captain. She is also another magical creature that I will not tell you, but she has the gift of song. So she basically, why she's such a good sea captain, and she's referred to as a teak. And the island that she's from is basically dominated by women. And let me tell you, she was my favorite character because she's badass. They also have characters that are non-binary. They have characters and I thought that was so cool. Honestly, like, I read back and I was like, what are they saying here? But I figured it out. I was like, oh, dope. I just thought it was cool. I was like, oh, okay. Because the other character's perspective, which is the sun priest, Nara, she is basically in love with the person. I think she is. Did I give something away? Well, she might be in love with the person that is supposed to be like her bodyguard, and her bodyguard is this like real like fighter. I don't know, like some type of ninja. They have a specific name, but I don't remember the name. But anyways, yeah, you get the three different perspectives. You see how Serapio is basically from a boy, ever since his mom gave him this fate, like she basically told him what his fate was. You see how his mentors trained him and prepared him for this day when the solstice and the solar eclipse happen, and he is going back to the city of Tova to set things right. Zala is a person that is taking him over there, and you see how their stories connect. And then Nara is a person that he is going to confront, which is the sun priest. Now, I told you at the end of this book, that fight scene was sick. It went really fast, but for me, it was awesome because it felt like a movie. I was like, I know my eyes were like zooming through the pages. I don't know. It was so good. It was such a good book. There was world building, but I don't know how to describe it. I mean, ugly facer. Trying to hide this double chin all the time. But no, let's see. Did I write anything crazy here? Oh, this is what I wrote down here. It says, a God will return when the earth and the sky converge under the black sun. That is a whole book. But no, there's lots of little things in, like, just character building and all that stuff in between there. So yeah, those are my 3 books for the month of December. I really enjoyed them. All of them are 5 stars. Every last one. And it's not because I want you to like me. They're 5 stars. So they're good books. If a book is 1 star, I will say that, or at least in my opinion, because listen, like I said, it probably is 1 star because I didn't get it. Just like The Haunting of Hill House. I didn't get it. So it is what it is. But these books were great. If you enjoy stuff like this, pick them up, give them a read. And I will catch you guys in my next video. My next video, Hellbent or 23 books. I don't know. I just have a bunch of little things that I want to do. Oh, then I have a tag. I see you, girl. But anyways, I'll talk to you guys in my next video. Bye.